Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the update 1.77 dev server, and we're going to be looking at, this is the second iteration of the dev server as well, got to clarify that, but what we're going to be looking at today is the new map, or at least not really a new map, but kind of a new map. This is European Province, and you may be familiar with this map. This is Eastern Europe, one of the maps that's been in the game for a long time, but what they've done with this map is they've extended it out to be incredibly large compared to its normal variant, and the reason they've done this is for rank 6 vehicles. This means that some of the maps that you are normally used to, such as the Volokholamsk maps, have been extended out to their full size, meaning that faster tanks such as the Leopard 2K and the Abrams can get around it. Now I just want to test a bug. It seems to have been fixed, maybe? Nope, it hasn't been fixed. So, as you can see, this is just something I want to bring to light to you all right now, and hopefully this gets fixed, hopefully it's known about. But as you can see, when you go over bridges and also into water, you get this very interesting bug through the gun sight. So, I thought I'd just let you know about it and all of that stuff. One of the things that you may already notice about the map is that the borders really are the borders. So here, I am on an island, segregated away from basically the whole of the enemy team and also my allied team. I can't really see anything from this point, can't really see A or anything, but it's kind of interesting how you can come here. The thing that you may see a lot of people doing, I mean, this is perfect for like an Object 906 who wants to go across the river over there and up top onto this. They'll just sit here and they'll scout anything that comes out of that spawn and they'll kill you from it. So this will be a red side one instead of a blue side position, which you may see later on. It looks like we can't go anymore that way, so let's do a quick turn. Not exactly sure if we can get across that. I mean, we might as well try. It's probably not the best idea, but I do have unlimited respawns on. You can see how deep the water is. Oh baby. Okay, so in the Leopard 2K, which has a hell of a lot of firepower, well, firepower has a lot of engine power and firepower, you are able to get across the map. What is kind of interesting though is if you actually look on the map, there is kind of this skirting border that you can see along it, and you are forced out of it, which is kind of nice. One of the issues with the new Volokholamsk map, which we showed in the video earlier, is that you can kind of skirt the boundaries of it and also sit behind some divots, meaning that you can't be seen going around it. But it seems like on Eastern Province, or European Province I should say, it's a lot harder to do, especially in the south side, which means that combat is going to actually happen instead of people just skirting around the map. There is a lot more flat ground here, as you can see. There isn't as much foliage and snow about the place, so therefore seeing targets is going to be a hell of a lot easier for the enemies and also you. One of the nice things also about these new maps is that you can pretty much appreciate some of the new graphical changes. So you can see the haze. This is basically because of the weather setting that I have on, and over there you can see it very prominently. It looks really nice. The graphics of the Dagor Engine 5, I'm running it on max right now. I haven't tried movie yet, but this is max without any post-FX settings, so pretty much just running how it should, and I get a steady 60, which is something that on the Dagor Engine 4 I definitely wasn't able to do, especially with running a sound mod and also some of the iterations of the explosions and stuff changing over time. With this Dagor Engine 5 so far, I've had no issues with frame rates. The only time I did was when there was a bit of server lag, but that's really about it. So the south side of the map is pretty much a flat plain with a little bit of vegetation around and a little bit of houses and stuff like that, but getting to A itself is going to be, let's say, a bit of an issue, because if you spawn in the south side and you decide to go to A, it's pretty much a race for who can get to the tree line outside of A first, because the other side, what they're going to have to do is try and assault that tree line, and that's never easy to do. We see this on a map like the Fields of Normandy on the southern point, where the southern point on the fields of Normandy, there is the forest on the right hand side, and if you don't get to the town first from the left hand side, what you end up happening is people just sit in that forest, very much camouflaged, and you are able to get sniped over and over and over again. So it's kind of a rushed away. That's the similar scenario here, but there's definitely less cover for the people going around. There is slight hills, as you can see around here, and also the one we just came over, and this basically isolates the point from anything that can kind of sit there. The issue with this is the same issue we see with the Hurtgen Forest map, where it's very easy for people to attack the point and pretty much impossible to defend it. Attacking and defending A seems to be, or at least in my opinion, is going to be a bit of a nightmare unless there's nobody down here, meaning that I think most players will actually move to B and to C instead of around the A point. There's too much open ground, there's not enough hills to sit behind, and once you get on A itself, you are pretty much open to the city itself anyway. Even though there's quite a large ground between it, it's still flat, and if you really look, you can actually see this point from the altitude at C. But there's also little hills around the place, meaning that just defending it is just going to be an absolute pain. When we look at the B point, it's a pretty standard B point, pretty much the same as everything else that you can see, and something I haven't really shown actually in the new dev server, which is something I should have done, to be honest, is the new water effect. So as you can see here, there are the puddles, and as your tracks go through, they create puddles. Isn't that just a wonderful sight? I mean, one of the things that I made very clear during the dev blogs was, for me personally, yes, the new tanks are cool, yes, they're going to be quite hard to balance, but the Daegor Engine 5 update was what I was looking forward to most, and you can see why. This game just looks completely different thanks to it. There's a hell of a lot more haze around the place, which makes it feel like a dusk experience. There's puddles everywhere because the water hasn't evaporated yet into the atmosphere. There is a much more contrast, especially when we look at the road itself. Look how many colours are just on the road, something that we haven't really seen when it comes to pavements in general. So it just makes them look a hell of a lot more realistic, which is nice. So yeah, the B point is pretty standard. It's pretty much the same one that has always been on this map, and it is an absolute hell to take once it is taken. At least now, if you lose the B points, you do have options to go to C and A instead of being bogged down in this area, because this area in general is just awful to fight around if you're trying to be aggressive in it. Generally, once a team has this area locked down, unless the game goes on and a lot of people die, they just generally push through to the spawns. Now, the spawns being back a little bit, the domination points being spread out more, hopefully we don't see as much of a fight in this area of the town, because it's just incredibly boring, to be honest. And it may have not been boring when the map first came out, but now I've played so many maps of the same thing, it's nice to get a little bit of a change. The water itself still looks really nice on the maps. I think the best graphical updates, in my opinion, that I've seen is the ice that was on Volokholamsk. That was just absolutely beautiful. But yeah, B point stays the same, but is going to be affected by the spawn points being put back. It pretty much means whoever gets to the middle first will be able to have a nice defensive position, wait for the enemy to come in and just annihilate them. With a squad of 4, I think you could easily hold down any of these points. The A1 is not that open, even though it may seem it because of all the foliage, but it is definitely a position which favours the offensive side because of the hills around it. B favours the defensive side just because there are many houses that you can just sit behind, and C itself, in my opinion, is going to be the point which is sought over. And the reason for this is because, well, it's at a higher altitude. If you look at the contour lines of the map around this area, you can see that it increases heavily as we get up the hill. And once we're on top of the hill, just like in the center point of Fulda, What this basically means is if you capture this point, you're able to nail down one of the one of these spawn zones, like either over here or over here, depending on what side you're on. And if you're able to do that, that pretty much means that you have not just this to sit in, not just all of this to sit in and wait and play defensive and wait for the enemy to push you. You can also look over the whole of the town from your elevated position on the map. This position has always been key, no matter which capture zones are around the place or where it is, because normally there is like a capture zone sometimes here, meaning that this elevated position is perfect for stuff like that. But even here, if we got rid of the haze, which is definitely something I put on because of I wanted to show the weather conditions. If this was a clear day, you could see directly into B, and you could see pretty much into A. At the same time, you can see all of the road into the spawn. You can do this either side, of course, depending where you want to position. So if we just measure to here, it's 500, so it's not exactly a hard shot to make. And then if we look at A, which is over here, base of the windmill there, it's going to be around 1200 to 400. So once again, not a hard shot to make when we actually think about it. So from this elevated position, this is going to be the key one, in my opinion. This one is going to win you the map. This one is going to be the place where you're going to dominate from. So capturing C should be a prerogative for both teams, no matter if you're at 7-0, 8-0 or 9-0. If you're able to clamp down C and stay in this forested area, use the houses for cover, you can easily clamp down B and A at the same time, meaning that you can lock down one of the spawns, so they are forced to spawn at the other one, and then you can shoot at them. Now if we go to the north side of the map, the really north side of the map, then let's just see what there is. So basic points right now. A is offensive focused, B is defender focused, and C is the position which is going to be the main priority for actually capturing this whole map, which is something you definitely have to think about. The dev server is about to close, so this video may be a little bit shorter than I would like it, but the main thing is I'm trying to concentrate the main points. Because this thing is going to be a higher tier map, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to skirt the sides of the map trying to get into the enemy spawns. The reason for this is to stop the second wave of enemies coming out, and it's something you're always going to have to be aware of when you have that second spawn. It is something that we showed on the Volatile Amps map, how you can just go around the side and just sit and cover the points at the same time and also cover the spawns. This is also available to do in this map as well, as long as the enemy is not paying attention. One of the main things about this map is that there is less cover around the sides for general players, meaning that it's harder to skirt the sides and get into those positions where you can spawn camp. So as we see over here, if we go from the right hand spawn, there is a nice tree line here that we can use to push through, but here is basically where it ends. So going all the way over there seems pretty much pointless if you're in a quicker vehicle like an MBT or a Leopard 2K, and all you have to do is skirt this, try and keep these trees in the way of the enemy, which are going to be sat over there. But as you can see, there are open gaps here. Now the terrain is definitely favorable for you in order to move this way, but all it needs is one person to be paying attention and you'll be dead pretty soon. Nice tracks as well, which is nice. We have a little bit more foliage, and then we have another hill. But the thing is, this hill extends, so you actually go off the map over here. So once again, you are pretty bare-boned in this position. All you have is a little bit of a hull-down capability, which is lost when we get to about this position. And this pretty much means that you have to go gung-ho into the enemy spawn. So from the top side, there are definitely ways of getting into the enemy spawn, but it's a hell of a lot harder to do compared to what it was when we look at the map of Volokholamsk. So that means that from the top side, I think it's much better to focus on C, winning that battle, and then being able to influence the rest of the map from that position, instead of a position where you're trying to get around the enemy, because you're not covered from that whole stretch to around about here. Now that you're covered in this area, you can spawn camp if you feel like it, but it won't work as well because of the fact that you have to get across that open field. I do like this map now it's fully extended. The fact that it does have large open areas does mean that it will prefer a defensive playstyle, which is something that I have enjoyed. It obviously favors the faster vehicles. Stuff like the Chieftain and the T64A and the T64B are not really going to enjoy this map. Once you're dead, getting in the second spawn and getting back to the domination zones is going to take a hell of a long time. So in my opinion, to counter this, they're going to have to make it so tickets go down a hell of a lot slower than they used to before. It's very similar to if you're on Fulda Gap or Kursk and you lose that initial battle, the first battle which takes place between like the 2-minute and the 10-minute mark. It's pretty much impossible for your team to come back from it, and that is what it feels like in this arena as well, just because it takes so long to get from one position to another. So that is something you definitely have to realize when we talk about this map. But moving around, the town itself doesn't seem to have changed at all. Everything seems to be hunky-dory here. I feel like positions that people used to take before, such as this position here, are pretty much going to be useless because they're not going to be able to really see anything. C is actually pretty well covered from positions like that because of all the houses and everything. You can use the houses to, you know, to be able to get behind and use defensively. But something that is always interesting about this map is the fact that you have these contour lines here. One of the things that they've kept is this tree line which sits around here, and let's actually go there first, because around the sea point there has always been this area which you can kind of exploit, which isn't as much north as it is closer to sea. Also, the new aircraft, they sound amazing. I really like the sounds of the new aircraft. But if we get behind here, you can see that there is a ridge here that you can use to pop in and pop out. This is perfect for scouts if you like your light tanks, and also stuff with pretty heavy gun depression. Like, let's say I'm in my Leopard, I'm sat here, I'm scouting C, I see somebody pop up between those boxes, I flip up, take a shot, and then I move back again. And just keep doing that. But after taking a shot, you reposition, like maybe over there, then take a shot there, just to make sure that you keep them guessing. But from this position, there is areas that you can take. You're not just stuck here once you take this ridge. There is a slightly lower plane that you can take, which is around the sea points, which is there on the current iteration of the map. So if you follow these trees around, you will eventually run into, what are those planes? Nimrods. Okay, Nimrods are making that much sound. I'm not exactly sure about that. But if you move around here and you do it quick enough from the spawn positions, you can see there's a little hill here. And what you can do is you can follow this road round, and as long as you're fast enough, so you're in something like an MBT or you're in something like the Leopard 2K, you can skedoodle about the place. At the same time, there is this slight little defilade here that you may be able to see. You can also be able to go through that, so let's see if that's destructible. All of the buildings I've found so far have been pretty destructible, but it seems like that one is not is not having it. Maybe they've made the windmills destructible. Something definitely moved there. Not exactly sure what though. But yeah, there's a little defilade that you can use here. And what you're able to do is kind of just skirt this slight area, as long as you're quick about it. If you're not quick about it, then you're going to die pretty quickly. But yeah, there's the defilade that you can see. So if we cozy up to that, that means that all you have to worry about is a slight shot from somewhere like over there. You don't have to worry about ahead because there's you know, land in the way. You don't have to worry about the left because there's land in the way. The right you are open to, so that is something you have to think about. And then once you get to about this position, you start being a bit more open, so you do have to check your corners. And then from here, you nail basically everybody around the place, and then you move to C. capture C and then use C to bully A, and then once A is significantly bullied, you check the spawns to make sure there's nobody there, and then you move on A. Simple as. I mean, I feel like that's exactly how this map's gonna work. Maybe I'm gonna be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong in the past about maps, but that seems to be the most logical way of doing this. But yeah, it's nice to see it in its true colors. The European province map, instead of being relegated to just a little town brawler, it's nice to see this whole area instead. And yeah, I'm really impressed with the graphical updates, with the puddles of water and everything. I think it looks absolutely baller, and hopefully it stays like that. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.